Okay, thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate it. We'll get started. We have actually quite a bit going on tonight. So Kurt was volunteered by his wife to give the prayer. So Kurt, thank you.
Let's bow our heads in prayer. Lord God, I just thank you so much for bringing us all here. And we pray for our country. We pray for truth. And we pray that our words, our actions, those things that are spoken tonight glorify you. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much. Okay, everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you very much. A couple of things real quick. A lot of you may know about the Idaho Parents for Educational Choice. Their bus to Boise adventure actually was going to happen about a month ago. Had a little bit of an upset, and it's going to happen again. It's happening tomorrow. Okay, and so just a reminder for those of you that are signed up for the bus, be here bright and early by 6. That includes me, because the bus leaves right at 6:30. Okay, so it's going to be an early morning. They do have some breakfast and some stuff set up and everything for us to take on the bus. So, and I do know that there are about 4 seats, I believe, still left. So if you're interested in it and you haven't signed up, let me know, and I'm sure I can get you on the bus. So we'll do that. Also, our Liberty Dinner on March 3rd, Raul Labrador, he's running for Attorney General, is going to be our speaker, and I expect to have quite a showing, so I'm encouraging you, if you want to come, please let us know so that we can reserve your seats and make sure you have a place. That'll be an interesting night, I'm sure. Raul is actually well known. He's been involved in Idaho politics for quite a while, so that will be good. Also, I've mentioned before that about Judy Mikovich, Dr. Judy Mikovich. She is solidified she will be here on March 16th. Okay, her along with Misty Karlfeldt from Idaho Health Freedom and Leslie Manukian from the Health Freedom Defense Fund. That ought to be a pretty good evening, really, and it is on a Wednesday. It's a regular weekly meeting, but that ought to be a great meeting, and I would encourage everybody to bring as many of their friends and family to that, especially to hear Dr. Judy. So we have some things that are going on, and it's going to get to be some exciting times. And speaking of exciting times, I'm Jeannie. I'm Badger. How many of you have heard of the convoy that's occurring up in Canada? How many of you have heard of the one that's bound to happen in the United States? Well, these two actually are a bit connected with that, and I'm not going to steal their thunder, but I'm going to hand it over to them. They're going to speak briefly about what's going on with the People's Convoy that's going to happen in the United States and how we might be able to support. And so what I'll do is hand this over to you, let you introduce yourself, and we're a friendly group of people, so just be yourself. Right? Give them a hand, folks.
Well, thank you. And thank you to Doug for letting us come here tonight. My name is Janine, and this is Rob. And we came to talk about the U.S. convoy because I don't know about you guys, but I don't want my freedoms taken away. And I feel like that's already happening, and that's the plan. So the way that we ended up getting involved in this is that we wanted to do something to ensure that we didn't lose our freedom. And we joined a Telegram group called 208, what is it? What is it? 208 Freedom Package. So basically Basically what the Freedom Package Telegram site does is we are collecting donations for supplies for the truckers and all the other patriots that will be joining the convoy. And that's our mission. So we are connected to the organization, well, I don't know if we're connected, but we're helping out the organization, The People's Convoy. And I don't know if any of you have seen the co-founders on Newsmax, but they ended up doing something on Monday. They were on Newsmax, and they were saying that the convoy is going to start in Barstow, California. There's going to be about 1,000 trucks that are going to Barstow, and then they're going to have some kind of a rally or something prior to them taking off and going across the country. And they're going to, I think it's, well, the reason that I keep saying I think is because plans have already changed once, and we were ready to go with what the routes were, well, some of the routes we thought. And so anyway, it's changed, and the reason for that is for security, because we've seen what's been happening in Canada, and we want to ensure that we have as little issues as possible. So I think they're trying to keep it under wraps as far as exactly what they're doing. But the thing we do know is that there's going to be at least one route that's going to go across the 40 and the 44, and that's in the southern U.S. From here, I think, to Tennessee, and then it goes up to D.C. So right now, that's the plan. That could change, but that's what we've been told at the moment. And really, unfortunately, that's, well, I don't know if it's unfortunate, but we understand why. That's all we know. And so basically, what you can do to help is you can donate supplies, and we have flyers in the back and that you can pick up. And the reason that they look different from the one that's being displayed here is because they did change what they wanted to do, and so we had to change our flyers. And the only thing that this flyer has that the ones in the back don't have are first aid supplies. So that's the only difference. And let me see, is there anything else I want to mention? Oh, so the items that we're asking for are prepackaged food, utensils, maybe camp stoves, things of that nature. I don't know if you can read this because it looks pretty small. But we also are asking for clothes. We're asking for just anything that might help a trucker that's on the road, and that they might need to be there for, I don't know how long, weeks. So we're just not sure. So anyway, that's why we're here, and that's what we're doing. We're just trying to gather supplies for them. And also there's another way that you can help. You can also donate to the organization, and they have a website. It's called thepeoplesconvoy.org, and that website, it only has the donation information on it. They haven't loaded it with anything else because, like I said, they're trying to keep it low-key so that there aren't any bad actors that are following or trying to throw nails out in front of the trucks or whatnot, because I don't know if you've seen, but that's what they were doing in Canada, is they were throwing nails out in the road for the trucks to come by and get flat tires. So let me see if there's, oh yeah, I guess the most important information, thank you, Rob. Okay, so we have 2 dates and times for donations, and they will actually be here in this same room at the Western Springs Cowboy Church on February 20th and February 27th, and the time frame is 12:30 to 2 p.m. So if you want to do that, just bring it here on Sunday, this Sunday, next Sunday. The other thing you can do, if you can't make that time, you can also call me, and I can come get the donation from you, or we can meet in a public space, and we can exchange the goods or the supplies or whatever. So let me see. Oh, so we have a Telegram page which is only dedicated to support and to get supplies for the truckers. And again, the name of that is 208 Freedom Package. And then we have individual pages within Telegram, within the 208 Freedom Package, which separates it into different areas of the state. And obviously we're East Idaho, and you have to be invited to get into the page just to see what we're doing and how it's working. Because again, you know, Telegram was infiltrated, that somebody deleted a bunch of the accounts in different states, so we're trying to be smart about it. And I know it's on social media, and everybody gets infiltrated in social media, but you know, I mean, how do you get the word out, right? I mean, I guess you can come to one of your meetings, but so anyway, that's what we're doing. And let me see if there's anything else. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, so far we haven't been infiltrated or shut down on our 208 pages. The people that set this up set it up right. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Telegram or not. It's, how can I explain? It's a lot like Facebook Messenger without seeing everybody's pretty kitty posts and whatever they're posting. It's strictly, you will have your personal profile, and then you can be invited or create your own pages, organizations or whatnot. It's a free app. You can download to your computer or your phone. I've dropped everything. Well, actually, Facebook dropped me because I'm a little, what do you call it? Too patriotic is what they told me. Oh, I don't know how that's possible, but anyway, that's about it.
Oh,
And thank you.
I'm sorry, I'd like to say one other thing. If you do donate money, they recommend doing it through Bitcoin or blockchain. The reason being is, you know, something in Canada happened where they were trying to freeze people's funds in their bank accounts because they were donating. So those two ways would be the best way to donate if you want to donate money.
What was the second one?
Blockchain. So yeah. So they have the ability. You have the ability to do that on the peoplesconvoy.org, right? Yeah. Thepeoplesconvoy.org is the website where you can donate money. So, I'm sorry. Did you have a?
I just don't know about your Bitcoin. I thought Canada, they were doing something about Bitcoin up there too, to stop any Bitcoin currency vendors.
Oh, I don't know about that. So,
Actually, I think everything's moving to blockchain.
Blockchain?
Yeah, that's what we heard today on that Zoom meeting.
yeah. Okay. So, I guess that's the best way or the safest way if you wanted to donate money. But we're actually here just for supplies. So, yeah.
Are either one of them truckers? How did you get involved with that?
Well, I wanted to do something. I felt helpless for the last couple of years, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do. Now my sister, she's a trucker, and but I just happened to find this group, and I joined it when it was just starting up, and it feels good to be able to contribute something, you know, so.
I tried to find your 2083 package on Telegram. I couldn't find it. You said we had to be invited. So is there a sign-up sheet for that, or how are you working?
Well, you should, if you have a Telegram account, you should be able to find it easily, and I can help you look for it
Yeah.
later if you want.
Yeah, we can just do this afterwards.
And then is there any structure to these donations? How do you know when you have enough of one thing and not enough of another?
Yeah, that's a
Is there a
good.
way you want them packaged for shipment? Any of those kind of
Well, those are great questions. We've discussed it a little bit, but we haven't really set up it. To be honest with you, we don't have any donations yet. I mean, I have what I've bought, and I think Rob has what he's bought, but we haven't really. Oh, we've had one donation.
We've had one
Yeah.
donation.
So no, we don't have a plan, I guess. we just are accepting whatever you feel like you want to donate.
I'm stealing this. Okay, so what's going on is because of the security protocols, people donating, that's why we're going through the church. I took in some supplies. My wife was not too happy that I was giving people my address or our address. I understand that. To answer another question, how did I get involved? I have a couple of people that can't be involved, so I'm involved for them. they would be standing here talking to you instead of I. One of them is a long haul trucker. He's also involved politically, so he's been asked to not participate per se, but not make a public spectacle out of himself. So I'm here in their place. The other thing is that right now what's going on is we're literally, all these sites have been attacked by Antifa and other, y'all know who Antifa is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the bridges there in Canada, or going to Canada, in the US, one of the militias back east sent some guys to go deal with Antifa because they had instructions to start burning truckers in their trucks. So this cannot happen. So everything security-wise, what we know right now is wherever I can't say where they're all coming from, but everything's trickling down, and a lot of it, we're becoming a hub right here. This will be one of the last stops before it heads down.
In Idaho.
In Idaho. And if you will notice on the flyers, before anybody starts calling us and asking questions, the 20th and the 27th are our delivery, or our donation dates. They are leaving on the 23rd.
From Barstow.
From Barstow. We're going to be playing catch up, and we have some people that are going to fast track it, and they've already been told, the convoy people that are in the convoy have been told to leave somebody further back that's a supply truck. So that's to answer that question in the future. How are you guys getting the supplies from? Well, as of today, we do know that we even have truckers that are coming down our way from Alaska, so they'll come through here. A lot of people from Montana are coming lower Montana are coming this direction.
And I don't know if Rob mentioned, but did I tell you the date they're taking off from Barstow was the 23rd?
Yeah.
Okay, so initially they said March 5th, and so we thought we had a little more time, but they moved it up on Monday, so there you go. Oh.
The ones in Canada are protesting primarily against the vaccine mandates. What is this one about?
Here.
Well, it's about the mandates, and it's about forced vaccination, period. I can tell you there's a lot of, what is it, frontline doctors are going to be there?
Yeah.
The frontline doctors are going to be there.
Robert Malone.
A bunch of popular people.
Dr. Cole.
Dr. Cole, and there was a bunch of people that we weren't even allowed to be told today in the Zoom meeting. There's surprise guests, some real big names, I guess. To me, I'm going to tell you, it doesn't matter why they do this. If you guys have noticed, like Walmart's being paid, let's use them as an example, to leave shipping containers to rot on the docks after they've been taken off the barges, and there's a container problem, a logistical problem, they're saying. The only logistical problem that they're having is our government saying, no, let it sit there and rot. So, whether I supported or not this convoy, the reason I'm doing this for myself, it's going to happen anyway. And just so you know, it's already been put out there, if they were to get stopped, their next plan is just to turn off their trucks and set for a day. Can you imagine what that's going to do to this country? What happens when they do it for a week, 2 weeks, a month? But I will tell you, there still will be truckers running our supplies here in the United States because they understand we have to eat and get our goods. The truckers have worked that out themselves already.
Can you get gift cards to estimate for gas or fuel?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's a great idea. In fact, they encourage that.
Yes.
So yeah, just with the supplies, if you just want to give a card, you can just give it to us or
Does it
bring
have
it in.
to be a certain
Could you repeat the comment?
like shell or kind of?
I can't do it.
I don't know if that makes a
Gas
difference. I could find out for you, but I don't know if there's a
Can they
preference
supply gas cards if they want to.
for the gas card. Maybe it's just because it's got money on it. It doesn't matter where I don't know. I know what you're saying, like the specific gas stations. I could find out. I'll let you know.
In the back?
On that crypto issue in Canada, they can only shut down accounts that are kept on exchanges like Coinbase. So if you have a Bitcoin or Ethereum wallet, an actual hard wallet, then they can't shut that down. So those are the ones in Canada that they're not able to access. So if you back up all your cryptocurrency in a hard wallet, they can't really access that. It's only if you keep it on exchange. I don't know how many people here have Bitcoin at all, probably very few. But if you do, put your stuff on a wallet, on a hard wallet that you own. That's all.
Thank you. Yeah, see that guy. He seems to know all about it.
I'm just getting into it, but I do know that.
I don't have
Thank
nothing
you.
to do with it. Any other questions?
How much does it cost to fill up a truck?
A lot.
A lot.
1,000?
I think I
Current
saw,
Bitcoin price is about 43,000 for a single Bitcoin, but you buy fractional. So if you wanted to donate $1,000 or $100, you could do that through. You would buy that fractional amount and then send that to a wallet. So on the website that they're referring to, they have an address. So those addresses are specific to a person or organization. Bitcoin can't be traced, so you don't have the anonymity that you would have before or with different cryptocurrencies. So there's some different things with that, but yeah, you don't have to buy a full Bitcoin or a full Ethereum. Ethereum currently is a little more than $3,000 for one Ethereum.
In regards to how much it costs to fill a fuel tank, I think tanks are typically 100 gallons. So you're probably at least $4 a gallon for diesel, I guess, right now.
Some states maybe pushing 5 or 6.
Yeah.
yeah,
At least $400.
I heard that just to get to DC, it'd be about 2,000. So it's not cheap.
One thing I do want to add, when these guys fill up their truck, getting to DC, that's a lot of money. Wherever they're sitting, forever how long, if I'm not mistaken, I was told, actually I read it and I reposted it in the group, a truck can set idling for about 2 weeks, and it doesn't have to stay running the whole time. So whatever you guys donate to these gentlemen and ladies that are running their trucks, it's well worth it. Most truckers have 2 weeks worth of stuff in their truck anyway. So, when it comes to donating, remember that they are in a truck. Everything's going to get separated out into packages from my understanding. So what we're asking is preferably don't buy big bulk items, a giant bag of sugar. It's not going to be feasible. We want to keep everything sealed. They even haven't put it past, possibly trying to poison the truckers, whoever they are.
Anyone else?
I have a question. When I was talking to him earlier, there was a comment about, there was a question about where you're going to store everything, and one of the thoughts was, does anybody have a trailer, for a tractor trailer that is actually secure storage for, like, everything's going to show up here, and I don't know whether they have arranged for that, but if you have a whole bunch of supplies show up on Sunday, where are they going to put them? You don't want to put them in pickups or things like this, or the Badger's house, because that's going to be a problem. So my question would be to this audience here, does anybody know where, or we might be able to get a trailer, for a tractor trailer, to hook onto a big truck or something, that's a secure storage that we could put material in. That was a concern a week ago, and so I don't know if that's been resolved or not. Do you know about that?
Well, I heard that the members of the church were willing to donate trailers, so that's all I heard. I don't know if that's been resolved or if that has been discussed. So, any further?
From my understanding, there is a place, I'm not gonna put it out there publicly, of course, through the church, that it should be being held. And if not, I mean, I don't know how, I think the storage shed would work too. You know, get storage, not like it's hot outside right now, so.
From that point, what I would just ask the audience, if you happen to have something, if you know somebody that might have something, maybe it's not needed, maybe it's taken care of, but if it isn't, you know, we're actually looking at least two days worth of potentially a lot of donations, a lot of supplies, and they need to be secure. So I would offer, if you know of any option for that, let me know, and I'll give it to the folks here. The one thing we don't want to have is a bunch of stuff sitting out in the parking lot, wondering what we're going to do with it. That would be my concern. And so, anyway, with that, that was just my thought. So, okay, any other comments? Or?
No, well, you know, I think Badger and I both have the ability to store things at our places.
We do.
So what our thought was one of us would come on one of the Sundays and then the other would come on the other Sunday, and we would take home whatever was here.
Okay.
So, I mean, for the time being. And then, Rob mentioned, I almost called him Badger. What Rob mentioned was that there will be truckers coming down this way through Idaho Falls and can pick up whatever donations we do have. So we just need to ensure that we're communicating with the people the owners of that Telegram page. So, which we are. We're in contact with them every day. So.
Okay. Well, it's obviously it's a very you got to stand up, you know.
Well, so I was just wondering. I mean, just for our own information, I'm just curious. Where are these truckers? Are they working for companies, or do they own their own trucks? I mean, do a lot of them own their own trucks and they're just taking part in this? I mean, just for my own curiosity's sake.
So when I had mentioned, don't worry that your goods will still probably be coming, and I'll say probably more than likely, we'll still get our food and whatnot. From my understanding, it's going to be a lot of owner-operators that will mostly run the convoy. And a few small companies. The big companies, they can't do it. There's just no way. But the smaller companies are already kind of losing it right now as it is, financially. They're losing drivers, they're losing this, they're losing that. So that's why these guys, that's another reason. They can't get drivers because of mandates. Certain companies are mandating. From my understanding, they're not doing this just because of them. They've had it, but they've had it for everybody. They're done. And honestly, you think about our supply chain, oh my gosh, we're not going to get stuff. Whether we support it or not, it's going to happen. So I figured I'm supporting it just because let's get it over with now before things get any higher in price and it gets worse. Because obviously things are going up really quick.
And then just one more thing, it doesn't have to be a trucker who joins the convoy, I think I mentioned that, but anyone can. So if anyone feels like they want to go to DC or join it for any part of the journey, then anyone is welcome.
Thank you. And obviously it's an opportunity to stand up, and these truckers and people are standing up, pushing back, saying enough's enough, comment was made, it's just against the vaccine mandates. There's a lot of stuff happening in this country right now, in the world right now, that we have to stand up and push back against. And that's what I think this is all about. And it's about us pushing back, saying enough's enough on all these things. They're going to stick around for a little while, so I'm sure that you can, if you have some questions and whatnot, you'll be able to, catch them on the side here and do that. But let's give them all a big hand, and obviously let's support these truckers and everybody else. It's a great thing for them to happen. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, now the main event. I'm not, without further ado, Rick and Marynette, I don't know how they're going to do this, but Rick, they decided you're going to love the start out slide, so I'll just let it go with that.
Okay, I know some of y'all here, I'm gonna give you just a little bit about me, and then when my wife comes up here, she can talk a little bit about her. My name is Rick Herndon. I worked with the Boeing Company for 25 years. I'm not bragging, that's just who I worked with. I was the facilities director for the state of Louisiana and Texas. Part of my responsibility was supporting the emergency management organization that we had on the project. I retired in 2000. I went to work for FEMA, where I was a task force team leader working disasters. I worked 40 presidentially declared disasters, including Katrina and Deepwater Horizon. I'm going to be a little bit blunt tonight about some of the things that I'm going to talk about, because I think people need to know and understand that preparedness and being ready is your responsibility. It's not the government's responsibility, it's not your neighbor's responsibility, it is your responsibility. You see up here it says, if you're prepared for the zombie apocalypse, then you're prepared for anything. That actually came off the CDC's website some years back, and that's what they were preaching and talking about. So, if you have any questions as we go, right, I can try to answer them for you. I don't have copies of these presentations. I do have copies of some of the, and they're on the back there, of resources. So if you want resources, if you want a copy of the presentation, let me know, give me your email address, and I will email it to you. So if you're going to start and prepare, what am I going to prepare for? What are your goals? Where are you going to start? Where are you going to end up? Your plan. So you have to be prepared. Sit down with your family, figure out what you're going to do, how many members, and how long a period of time. You'll see some of this I may be a little ahead of myself, but you'll see it as we go through it. Am I going to bug out or am I going to bug in? That's a question you have to determine what you're going to do. Am I going to stay at home and try to hold down the fort, or am I going to try to leave? I can tell you that when you leave, we'll just say we had a civil disturbance and everybody wanted to get it out of town. The highway out here is going to be bumper to bumper. Where are you going to get gas? Because gas stations aren't going to be open. They're going to leave. Been there, done that. Evacuated from New Orleans 5 times. Even when you do contraflow, which is you turn all the highways in one direction, both sides of the highway to get out of town, it's still bumper to bumper. And where are you going to go? How are you going to stay? One of the things that happened, there's some data out there that in Kosovo, some years back when they had the insurrection there and the Russians were after them or whoever was after them, those people that stayed in, bugged in, did much, much better than those people that left. I've got a bunch of food, I've got guns, I got ammunition, I got whatever. How am I going to load it and get out of town? And I got a car full of me, the wife, and 2 kids. And where am I going to get gas when I get on the road? You have to think about that. Those are things that you have to think about.
Next slide.
Safe place. Where am I going to go? Is it safe to be there? You're going to have to scout out an area. You're going to need to, if you decide to leave, where am I going to go? How long am I going to stay? How much food am I going to have? 2 days, 3 days, 10 days, a year? You have to think about that. Those are all things that you must have in place before you decide to do whatever you do. Because I have seen people in disasters that had nothing because they thought that the government was going to come and save them. Perish that thought. That is not going to happen. It's just not. They may get there in a week, but they're going to give you water and say, here you go. They're not coming with food. You know, the best people to come with food, and I hope this doesn't offend anybody. If it does, I'm sorry. Red Cross shows up. Everybody thinks the Red Cross. They see Red Cross got money. I want money. Send it to me on TV all the time. They're going to be there for 5 days, maybe 6 days, and they're gone. They're going to give you a bucket, some bleach, and a mop, no matter what you're doing, and they're gone. The people that are going to take care of you the best are going to be the Marynette Disaster Relief Program. They're number one, followed by the Salvation Army, then followed by the Baptist, Southern Baptist, have a group of men that come in and that will help rebuild homes, will also feed you. And then the LDS Church also has trailers that they bring to disasters also. But that's kind of it. The Mennonites, when I was out on a disaster, that's the first phone number that I wanted, because it changes from disaster to disaster. That was the first phone number that I wanted, because those were the guys that were going to be there to help you do no matter what you needed. So what kind of disaster are you going to plan for? A flood, winter storm, earthquake, civilian, unrest, disturbance, you know, government unrest. If you look at what's happening in Canada, Mr. Trudeau declared basically martial law. I think he had another name for it, but that's really what it was, martial law. People are having their bank accounts seized. They can't go places, they can't move. And those are things that would happen here if we had a civilian unrest or a martial law event. They're going to keep you in place, they're going to keep you there. And from a legal standpoint, and I'm not a lawyer at all, but I will say this, that if they say mandatory evacuation, you do not have to leave your home. They cannot force you out of your home. They may try to make it as hard for you as they can, but they have no legal right to force you to leave your home. They tried it in New Orleans, and it led to a lot of problems, a lot of gun confiscation. And some of those people, that happened in 2005, and some of those people still to this day do not have the guns back that they confiscated from them. They went door to door. General Andre, who was the head of the Louisiana National Guard, he was also on the January 6th Commission, by the way. He had the National Guard go door to door, confiscating guns and taking them out of people's homes. Each disaster, you kind of sort of, you have to plan around what you think is going to happen and what the probability or risk factor is for what would happen where we live. Okay, we came from South Georgia. We've been here 13 years. We knew tornadoes and hurricanes. That was a given every year, and we planned for it. I will say that Bonneville County so you, by federal law, the Bonneville County Emergency Management Group here is supposed to have what's called an LEPC, Local Area Emergency Management Committee. By federal law, they are supposed to meet monthly. By federal law, the mayor, the city commissioner or councilman, the county commissioners, the police chief, the fire chief, the administrator from the hospital, the Red Cross, the list goes on and on and on. Businesses that have chemical storage, railroad out here, we don't plan for, I can tell you we don't plan for that. I was for a while a member of the LEPC, and I guess I still am, but they haven't had a meeting for so long, it doesn't matter. But when you look out here and you think, you have a rail traffic that goes up and down this highway, or the rails out here. You have tractor trailers that run up and down that highway that are loaded with what I call methyl ethyl death, chemicals that will kill you. I would step out and say, I'd like for them to show me where they have prepared for them. They prepare for an airplane crash over at the airport. They'll do some drills, tabletop exercises, but they don't get out and do what I call real, honest-to-goodness drills and exercises. And I'm willing to take on the challenge if anybody would like to challenge me on it. So when you start putting together food for your home and what you want, I have MREs up here, meals ready to eat, military. You can get those in a lot of places. You can order them online. There's lots of places. If you just Google it, it'll pop up, and you'll have them. You can order them. $70, $80 for a box. They last 10 years. You can test them, and I've got some that's 20 years old, and I'll eat them. So, freeze-dried food. The list that's in the back there has several places for my Patriot Supply. Rusty over here at the preparedness store. If y'all don't know about it, there's a preparedness store over by Fred Meyer's. It says it's a Bosch store, something like that. Rusty's got just all kinds of things that will help you prepare for what you need. And Rusty's a good source. He knows a lot about it. He's got canned stuff, freeze-dried stuff, flashlights, first aid kits, whatever you need. And no, I'm not getting a commission off of it. You have to think about canned goods. So like, we'll just say Brolam's has a can lot sale twice a year. It's got an expiration date. It's not an expiration date. It's a use-by date. You can go do your own research, but that food in those cans will last as long as you're willing to keep them stored, as long as they are not swollen or dented. The best buy date is simply at some point you're going to start losing some of the nutritional value in them, but it's still okay to eat. Tuna fish, as long as it's stored in water, not oil, is okay to eat. And the reason I say that, we have stuff at the house that's forever, and we eat it all the time. So, and I'm still upright. Comfort food. You're going to need some kind of comfort food because you have to think about that. If you're going to do something long term, you're going to want, what is your comfort food? Candy, sweets of some kind, whatever. It can be anything. It can be just regular food that you enjoy, that you consider a comfort food. And you have to think about that. So you have to make arrangements for that, because this is going to be, could be a long-term event. And so the last thing you want to do is just stick with a bunch of everyday, mundane stuff that you're going to get tired of, because you're going to want that candy bar at some point. You need a method of fixing the food, gas, some type wood, whatever. I will tell you, if you eat MREs, you get freeze-dried food, get you something that's got a couple of cans, jars, or whatever of fiber. And I'll just say Metamucil, for example, because it's got fiber in it. Think about, why do I need that? Well, you're getting ready to upset your entire system because you've been used to eating lots of green things, fresh vegetables, those kind of things, and you're no longer going to get those things unless you have a garden. And in the wintertime, you're not going to have them for sure around here. So you need something that will give you the fiber that you need, that you're going to be missing when you have to eat this stuff. Okay. Please do not forget water. You can go a few days without food, but you can't go very long without water. How am I going to store it? There's lots of containers out there that run anywhere from a gallon jug to a 500-gallon container. And you can buy them here in town. They are available here in town for long-term storage. If you're fortunate enough to have a well and you have a generator, if you lose power, because be quite honest, if we had a civil unrest, one of the first things that would happen is we would lose power. That's one of the first things that's going to happen. If we want to stand up for ourselves, be self-sufficient, they don't want us to be self-sufficient. I can tell you that FEMA in the past has confiscated foods from disasters. So there you go. But you can't survive without water. You cannot do it. So back up a little bit, bug in, bug out. You need to have some form of cash or material for bartering. Food is a good bartering agent if you have enough of it. Spirits. We make our own vanilla, okay? Over to Rusty's, get vanilla beans, and go to the store and get the cheapest, absolute cheapest vodka that you can find, and put vanilla beans in it, and once a week flip it back and forth, and before you know, you have got some of the best vanilla that you will ever taste or cook with. And it's cheap. And it does work. And at some point you can take the vanilla beans out, throw them away. You have to kind of think about things. Ammunition is a good thing to barter with. If you have enough ammunition and somebody comes to you and say you want chocolate, and you know they've got it bartered. Ammunition for chocolate, ammunition for whatever. Chocolate. Food is a good bartering thing because cash, money, may not be there. May not be there. Just may not. Okay. Communications. If you cannot communicate with people in your group or in a group, then you're not going to know what's going on. You're just not. You cannot count on cell phones. Cell phones will be one of the first things that comes down. In all the disasters outside of Deepwater Horizon, all the disasters, the cell phone towers came down and were down for anywhere from 30 to 60 days. They just can't stand, and so I personally feel that the government, if it was the government, I'm just talking about the government here, if it's some other kind of disaster, it could be different. Not going to want you to communicate. Verizon, AT&T, they all have these mobile towers that they can shoot up, but the coverage on them is terrible. They just have hardly no coverage, not like you would have on a normal cell phone. So, handheld radios, CB radios, portable AM, FM radios, so you can hopefully find out what's going on, weather alert, ham radios, marine radios, UHF, VHF base stations. I have some combination of all of those. Faraday box, so EMP, my wife's going to talk just a little bit about EMP, but if we had an EMP and you want your equipment stored in what's called a Faraday box, and you can build them yourself. Rusty sells stuff, but you can build your own ammo can, put some wood, line it with wood, put your stuff in there, you're good. I did come across and talk to a gentleman the other day that has ordered some stuff, he's one of our neighbors, has ordered some stuff that he says, according to what he's read, and the literature said that you can attach it to your vehicles and it's supposed to protect your vehicle from an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, which is caused from a nuclear device. So we'll see. We'll see how that works. Your ability to communicate is absolutely vital. Absolutely vital. If you can't communicate, it's almost like water. If you can't talk to people, find out what's going on, you're going to be stuck someplace in the dark, and you don't want that at all. So, next. You need some kind of a light source, light sticks, flashlights, batteries, lanterns. If you use a lantern, it's battery, or maybe you need fuel. Solar lights, you need to check your batteries once a year, make sure that they're good. Most batteries that you find today are good for around 10 years, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be good for 10 years. They say that, but that's a lot of times just a sales pitch. Depends on the battery that you buy. Okay. So, electric power, you just can't, you're not going to be able to count on it if something happens. At least I don't believe. I mean, where we live at, Doug and our neighbors, and we lose power, quite regularly up there. This year's been kind of odd because we haven't lost it, but a couple of years ago they were down for about a week, if I remember correctly. So you want a generator, solar power generator, propane generator, natural gas, diesel. What size do you need? You need a whole house generator. You need, for something just to run certain items, or do you need just a small generator? Just remember that if you get a gasoline generator, do not put it in your garage and run it. Because a lot of people die every year in disasters because that's exactly what they do. And the carbon monoxide comes in, and they just go to sleep and just don't wake up. We're fortunate that we have a whole house generator. Comes on automatically, 24 kW. There's a couple of others in here that have those, so that I know of. It's good. You just have to take care of them, keep them going. It runs off of natural gas, so if we lose natural gas, then we're out of trouble, in trouble, and so you just have to remember that. Okay. Personal hygiene is something that really has to be paid close attention to when you're in any kind of a thing, whether it be a flood, any kind of a natural disaster, or any kind of other type of disaster. The ability to be able to clean, keep yourself clean, keep your hands clean, keep your food clean, keep the things around you clean. So you need to have things to do that. Now, the COVID has kind of driven us to have wet wipes and hand sanitizer and all that, which is that part of it is good because it's made a lot of people think about that. But that's something you really need to do. First aid kits, your medication, prescription drugs. Just remember that you could be in a situation where you take a heart medicine or some other kind of medicine, the pharmacy is not able to be open, supply chain issues aren't able to get it to you. So what do? So you need to try to do the best you can to have a little stash ahead. Some doctors will prescribe something a little extra for you. Talk to them about it. You go get a procedure done. You keep the drug. Don't throw it away. Go do your own research, but it will last. May not be quite as strong as it was originally, but it's usually good for a year to 2 years at about the same strength. At some point, it will start degrading a little bit, but not enough that you throw it out. We just don't throw anything out like that. We just don't. We keep it all. A first aid kit. There's a lot of first aid kits out there that's on the shelf that you can go and buy. I think you're better off personally, from a personal standpoint, if you build your own. Look around, see what you're going to have is a way of people at your house, your family, your neighbors. They have children, elderly people. What do I need to go into my first aid kit that's best going to take care of me and those people that I might need to help? Because throughout all of this, no matter, you have to remember that we should look out for our neighbors. That's one of the things that you have to do. I think anyway, you have to be able to look out for your neighbor, you know, for your brothers and your sisters. You know, not just your family brothers and sisters, but your brothers and sisters in the neighborhood. You just have to. Items for burns don't usually come in a first aid kit, so you can do that. There again, you can find all kinds of stuff. There's all kind of, you go to the drugstore and buy it if you want to, but there's other places around town here that, like the places where you can go pick up oxygen. They usually have a lot of that kind of stuff also. I forget the name of the place now, but it's a place over on Sunnyside where the lighting store used to be. And they have a lot of emergency first aid stuff in it that you can buy.
Okay. She's
You're
going to
just
run that
gonna
for a
smile
second.
at me.
All right. If you so choose to evacuate, plan where you're going to go, plan how you're going to go there, and plan for a backup plan for a route. Our roads are going to be absolutely jam-packed. If they call for an evacuation of Bonneville County, for example, you had a big flood event, you had an earthquake, and they said, let's get us out of here, we got to go. The roads are going to be jam-packed. How are you going to get there? Are you going to have enough gas to get where you're going to go? Probably not. Am I going to stop at the local store at the next ramp when I get down and buy gas? Probably not, because you have to think, they're gone too. They got family and people to look after for too. I mean, when New Orleans flooded during Katrina, about 90% of the police left the city. 90% of the police left the city. And about that many firemen left because they had families too. They had their own people to look after. And so, you know, that's just what they did. So you have to look for, you know, travel time, time of the day, traffic, and where am I going to get fuel as I go along. It's just something that you need to build into your plan, because remember what I said when I started, this is your plan. How many people, where I'm going to go, where I'm going to stay. Am I going to plan for 2 days, 30 days, 365 days? What am I going to plan for? And you have to keep that in mind. Okay. So, shelter. If you do evacuate, or even if you stay, if you lose power and you don't have any way to get power, the house is going to get cold if it's December or January. Clothes, tents, cots, sleeping bags, blankets, because you may have children that want to come to your house. You may have an elderly couple that lives down the street, or a lady that's down there as a widow. You may want to invite her up there. You need to think about that. I keep going back to that. You need to think about not just you, but you need to think about the people that you are going to have come to your place, or the people that you are going to have to help, or want to help, or should help. It's not just, you know, it's a should too. I think we have an obligation to look after and help our brothers and sisters, and we need to plan, make some level of planning for those people. Next. So home security, storm windows or shutters, not so much here. On the East Coast, our house in Georgia, we had storm shutters that go across the back of the house. Our house was 72 feet across the back, 68 feet of it was glass. And it was on the river, and the Atlantic Ocean was 2 miles maybe from where we lived. And so we did have trees on our house several times. So put storm shutters up, you have storm windows. The other thing is if cameras, floodlights, alarm system, because we have come where we are now, you don't have to have necessarily a monitored alarm system. You can have your own alarm system, have it go to your phone. You just need to make sure if you use power that you have a battery backup and it'll work on battery and notify you if you're not at home, or if you have somebody come to your house before they get to your house that tells you they're there. Okay. Masks. A little something on personal protection. Chemical, biological, radiological dust. There's an N95 respirator. You hear a lot about N95 masks, but they do make a respirator that's an N95. Some of y'all, if you were in the military, the old military masks were the M17s. They had the A1s and A2s. That's the old ones. That's the ones right now that are most available when you go to a website. C.H. Cadell, for example, is a magazine, and they have them, and that's where you can get those things. And they're really pretty inexpensive. You do have to think, like I do, about my wife who's claustrophobic, and she can't wear one of the M17. So I had to step up and get a full face mask that doesn't have the divider with just the eyes. It's got the full face. So you have to think about that. They're a little more expensive, but it's worth it, trust me. I don't usually chase rabbits, but we were married right after we got married, and in our house in New Orleans, we had a walk-in closet, and I'm a pretty good kidder, okay? I like to play jokes sometimes, most of the time. And so she went in this walk-in closet. I closed the door behind her, and the light switch was on the outside, and I turned it off. Trust me, I will never, ever do that again, and have not in 30 plus years. It was not pretty for Rick. So whenever the masks, all of them, if you look, they have a drinking tube to them, because you're going to need to keep yourself hydrated. They have just like the old military canteen, a lot of them have the ports in the top. The drinking tube goes from the mask down to that canteen so that you can keep yourself hydrated. You can't eat, but you can at least have some water if you have to wear it for some long period of time. The one thing I've not said, and I don't have a slide on it, is a shelter-in-place kit.
I'll talk about it.
You did?
I will.
Oh, okay. She's going to talk about it. You've got to have extra filters. You do have to have maintenance on them. Maintenance is basically take them out, check them, make sure, do a fit test on them, wash them with warm water and a little soap, and dry them out real good. Put them back and put them back for the next when you do need them. And then there are two sizes, one for adults and one for children. If you're going to have children, you need to try to think about it. If you're going to do that, you need to try to think about it for the kids. Okay. So protection with guns, and this can be, a touchy subject if people don't like guns. If you don't know, I work at Al Sporting Goods, and I work in the gun department. I have a great time. I get to play with all the new guns that come in the store and have a great time doing it. But Idaho has Idaho Enhanced Conceal and an open carry law. You can go and get trained on guns, ammo that's good for bartering. I think maybe we're going to have somebody talk here in the near future that's going to talk about gun and gun safety. I think Dave may have talked to him tonight, or going to talk to him on the bus tomorrow. And so we'll kind of leave most of that for that time. But you do need to have, if you're going to have guns, protect yourself, protect what you have. When they're not in use, you need to have some place to keep them locked up, keep the ammunition locked up, away from children. There's been a lot said about oath keepers, and I have it up there because it was in my original presentation. You can go online, check out who oath keepers are. I think they're still posted, but they used to have a really good video that was about 10 minutes long about what happened in New Orleans and about how the guns were taken away from people and how people were treated because they were not treated with respect. They actually, a lot of cases, they kicked in the doors, they knocked people down, they slapped them around, they took the guns and left them back and by themselves. And yes, that did happen.
Who is them?
Huh?
Who is them? FEMA?
It wasn't FEMA. It was the police that stayed back. It was the National Guard and some regular army that was called in. So now FEMA doesn't carry any guns.
Except for you.
Except for me. But they don't carry. They're really there as more of an agency to try to help. There is a misconception about FEMA. You see all these people going to get money from FEMA. If you have the ability to pay the money back, they will loan you the money. They don't give you the money.
So if FEMA is there working, where would the police get the ability to come and take your guns? I mean, who says that? Who tells that?
Well, in the case in New Orleans, it was the mayor.
The mayor?
Yes.
They declare a state of emergency.
Yes, you're always going to get a state of emergency. The governor is going to petition the president, and through the channels, what happens is it's the mayor, it goes to the governor goes to the president, where the declaration is declared. And that's how you get it. It's all up. Anytime you get FEMA, it's covered under the Stafford Act. And it came about in 1972 when Jimmy Carter was in president, maybe, is when it started. So, but that's where it's covered. If you ever get curious and want to read about it, you can go read the Stafford Act. It's pretty boring. Yes. So, one of the things I do also is I'm a firearms instructor. And we have a lot of people that come out to the range a lot of times to take training. Their husband bought the gun for the wife. Please, guys, do not buy the guns for your wives. Take your wife, if you want your wife to have a gun, take her with you and let her pick out the gun. Because you're going to pick out something that you like, not what she likes. And it's probably going to be too big. And she's not going to be able to shoot it or rack it or anything else. So I've made that mistake. I don't do it anymore.
4 times.
Yeah.
4 times.
Yeah, I didn't learn
That doesn't sound like a mistake to me.
Yeah. But you need to do that. You just need to do that. And then you want to train and practice. Please do not buy a gun and take it home and load it and stick it in a drawer and not go train and practice with it. Because when you need it, you don't know how to use it. You need to learn how to shoot it, how to take it apart, how to clean it, how to put it back together, and what to do with it. It's not hard. The guns today are not hard to take care of. But you just please, it's a lot of people die every year where people bought guns, didn't know how to use them, and ended up shooting themselves or somebody else. And it's not the thing to do. It's just not the thing to do. So you really need to make sure that you practice. Okay. Make sure that when you do this, that you have something to feed the soul. It's important. It's very important. You need to have things where as a group, and I'm not going to try to convert you tonight, but I'm not going to preach. But you need to have a Bible. You need to have, things that you can Bible study, hold a Bible study and talk about it, and things to feed your soul, because you're going to in some cases you get kind of depressed and down, and you just need something that takes care of you as an individual. Okay? You as an individual, you as a person, your soul, if you will. Okay? In the back, you probably can't read these, but these are a list of recommended reading materials, there's some books here, and you just kind of go through them here if you will, Doug. Some more books, and then here's a list of some websites that where you can go and find out information about food and how to prepare food and how to do things. I will tell you that this town is very, very fortunate that they have two really good sources of things to get for food. One is a preparedness store. The other one is, I think I have a slide on that, but maybe. The other one is the LDS Home Storage Center over on Anderson. They will sell you anything they have. You don't have to be a member of the church. You look at the building, one side it's got the Bishop Storehouse, the other side is this place. You have to go, and I don't know when I haven't been there in quite a while, but you can go and they have like number 10 cans of stuff. They have 25-pound bags of flour and wheat and sugar and just all kinds of stuff that you can take and put in 5-gallon containers. Their prices are good, but we're fortunate because back where we came from, they didn't have this kind of stuff. They didn't have a preparedness store or a place to go buy that kind of stuff. You had to order it online and hope you got what you thought you were getting. So here you can actually go and scratch it and look at it and make sure it's what you want and walk out with it. And it's pretty cheap. It's actually pretty cheap.
Don't forget Walmart.
I said Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays. I believe that's correct, but you can look it up and get a phone number. They'll call. You can call over there. They're really good folks over there. Good people. Both the Walmarts have a preparedness, bit of a preparedness place. Not a lot, but they do have some preparedness in both the stores up front. But I know the one in Amlin, they remodeled it and they actually have a pretty good sized place. I haven't been in it because it doesn't, walking by, it doesn't look like it have anything that would interest me, but there you go. Okay. The one thing you want to make sure, and I'm going to close and let my wife finish it up here, is that you do not want to be a victim. Do not be a victim. When you have a disaster and you're not prepared, you're going to have every Tom, Dick, and Harry in the world coming in that's going to help you and just give me the money and I'm going to take care of you and we'll get you on the list. And nine out of 10 cases, they're going to take your money and you're never going to see them again. They call them gypsies. And they're not gypsies as you would think of gypsies, but they call them gypsies because they go from disaster to disaster to disaster and take money from people. And when you get to the next disaster, they're not there and you can't find them. So if we ever have a disaster here, you want to make sure that you go to the Secretary of State's office and make sure that that person is coming, that just may have to do a roof for you or do something else, is registered in the Secretary of State's office and is a Idaho company. Okay? Because otherwise, if they're not an Idaho company, once they're gone, you got no recourse. You just have none. Saw it all the time. I don't work with FEMA anymore, but saw it all the time. You want this?
Might be some questions.
Do y'all want to ask some questions before I start?
Yes, ma'am.
Here you go.
Please say your name one more time.
Rick Herndon, Herndon. Any others? Yes, ma'am.
Could you have to send those links and sources that you had on the slides for those?
They're back in, I have some copies in the back here. Yeah, that I do have copies. If anybody else wants a copy of this, just give Doug or Dave your email address. He'll give it to me, and I'll get you a copy. I'll email it to you. It just gets to be, it's a lot of slides. It gets to be expensive, so it's just better if I can do it electronically. Any other questions?
Just a statement that Army surplus has a lot.
Oh yeah.
Preparedness.
Yeah, the other one, and I don't have it on here, but the Army surplus out by Love's truck stop, they have a lot of stuff out there too. Clothes and socks, they have a lot of and some food, a lot of first aid stuff, medical kits, cut down trays, suture kits. Depends on how far you want to get into it and how much you want to prepare, but they have all that stuff out there. And it's reasonable, Any more questions?
Well, you sound like you're really prepared. You mind sharing your address with everybody?
No. No. No.
I know where you live. But with that.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned about getting radios and different stuff. What's the best type? Like if you just have family a few miles away, long ways, 10, 20, what's the best
So
thing you can get?
there's some
Use the mic.
Motorola makes some that are UHF, VHF. I know that you can talk. We have some friends. Once I get smart enough, I'm gonna program mine. But some friends that live down on 21st Street. He talks over to Coraloma, over there on the hills with them. So it just depends on what you want to do. They are doing some training right now is going on for ham radios. Ham radios are different levels: technician level, general level, blah, blah, blah. You have to take a test. The classes don't cost anything. Costs you a little bit to take the test. They're doing it over at the college. The college has nothing to do with it, just using the space. There's two gentlemen, Randy Taylor and Larry Taylor. He's shaking his head, so he must know those guys. They are really good, and they are doing the training. If you email me, I'll get their information and get it to you. They kind of, and I can't remember because I get them confused, but one of them is responsible for all the ham radio operations in this area with the Bonneville County EOC and for the church, the LDS church. They have a huge ham radio network. And it's good. So, you can do handheld hams, and they're not real expensive. The thing is going to take time that you have to study and get the test to use it. You can monitor it, just can't use it until you get licensed.
You got one more bit.
Can I answer that a little
Yeah.
bit? Okay, so if you're a licensed ham operator, then you can transmit. I'm a extra class, or not extra, general class ham operator. So to operate a ham radio, like he said, you have to be licensed, which means you have to take some exams, pass a test. That gives you different levels that you can use. A technician license, you can use a little walkie-talkie type radio, call them 2-meter radio, and they're good for a couple of miles. The guys that you see that have these giant towers in their backyard, I don't know if you've ever noticed that, those are high frequency radios. So they run at a lower frequency than the little handheld. Those can talk around the world. So you need a little higher level of training with those. And the big thing they're concerned about is that if you're pumping out lots of watts, then you could interfere with other people in your neighborhood's electronics. So if you're jamming out megawatts of power, you can mess up your neighbor's TV or their computer. And so you need to understand those things, if your neighbors complain, how to address those issues, because there are ways that you can protect your neighbors from that and still do that. But ham radio is not the only way to go. You can get what's called GMRS radios, and they are longer range than a CB radio because they have higher wattage output. Those require a license too, but they don't require an exam. And you can buy these at Al's Sporting Goods or Walmart. A lot of hunters use them, and with those, you just, when you buy that radio, if you look through the fine print, you'll see a phone number for the FCC, and you contact them and you send them money, give them a bribe, and they'll let you use those radios, okay? Well, the advantage of those radios is if you learn just a little bit, you can figure out how to make repeaters with those radios. And we have some repeaters here in town for regular handheld ham radios, which will allow you to even use that little walkie-talkie radio to talk around the world. If you can hit that repeater, it will get boosted and transmit on different
frequency, and that can talk to other repeaters all around the world. And you could, if you know how to do it, can even do it with a small handheld radio. The guys with those big towers in their backyard, they don't need those things because they're strong enough power. But you can, with a couple of GMRS radios, make a repeater which would allow, say you're under normal conditions, your GMRS could transmit, say 5 miles. You can either hit a repeater that's already here in town, and you can get all that information at the Eagle Rock Amateur Radio Club. They have all of that information, and you look them up on the web, and they have places that give you the frequencies and the offsets for that sort of thing. But you can use 2 radios to build your own repeater. So if you had a friend 6 miles from you, midway between you, you could build a little repeater out of a couple of radios. So that gives you guys options if you don't want to spend all the time to get a general class license or a technician class license. You can get a GMRS. You can also get what's called family radio service radios, which are similar to a GMRS radio. You can also get them at ALS, but they are even less power. So you're talking, maybe a few blocks from your house. But that might be all that you need. There's also, you kind of have to know what you're doing, but there's also new technology out there where you can buy these little, it's basically a battery and a circuit board with an antenna on it that you can set up mobile texting that would actually use your cell phone and your neighbor's cell phones if they have the access code for that little, it's basically a repeater that even though the cell towers were down, you wouldn't be texting through Verizon anymore. You'd be texting within your neighborhood with other people if you need to coordinate or pass news. And that could be critical because if there's resources available that could help you out, but you don't know about it because you don't have access to that information, then that puts you at a disadvantage. So hope that answers some of your questions on what might be it's not what's the best radio for me, it's what's the best radio for you. I want to talk to that guy in Australia. Maybe you don't need to do that. Okay? And the cheapest way to go is CB. There's a whole bunch of CBs you can get in garage sales and stuff that nobody uses, but they're half watt power. They're about the lowest power, short of the family radio that you can get. So, okay.
Anything else? Radios. Just remember, in disaster, all rules go out the door. Just a heads up.
Before I get too far into this, my name is Marynette Herndon. I've been working in the nuclear industry for about, a long time. I actually started my career in 1974, and I've been involved in emergency management for both the commercial nuclear power plants and also out here for DOE. I also do reviews for the NRC and for FEMA as far as the exercises that the commercials have to do every 2 years. I also go to those exercises and get to watch them perform and see how well they get to do. I was recently in Boston and watched them do they had new folks there, and got to watch how well they did with new people, and they did very, very well. I was really glad to see them do as well as they did. There's a lot that has to be done when you're doing those kinds of exercises, and they have to be able to actually clear out to 10 miles in the downwind direction. What I wanted to talk about tonight, there are a couple of things. Is there anybody else here besides me that's old enough to remember ducking under the desks? At least you've seen about it, you know about it, okay. Well, that kind of came and went. The Cold War warmed up, I guess, or cooled off, whichever way that's supposed to go. And we really haven't heard much about what to do as far as if there is a nuclear disaster. And one of the things that I wanted to ask about was, next slide, was how many countries or how many nuclear devices are out there in the world? Okay, I'm not sure you can read these numbers, so let me put on my glasses and I'll read them for you. The United States has 5,550. Russia has 6,257. United Kingdom has 225, France 220, Israel 90, Pakistan 165, India 156, China 350, and North Korea somewhere between 40 and 50. So there's basically about 13,000 nuclear weapons out there. When I was at Rocky Flats, and that's been a while too, they had not put the bombs together, but they actually had enough plutonium at that point that they figured that they could destroy the world 16 times.
Yeah.
Why we had that much, I'm not sure, but that's what we had. Next slide. What I wanted to do was talk about some of the basics. And there is an article that's out on the web about the detonation of a 10 kiloton nuclear device. Now, in just a second, let's go talk about math a little bit here. Does anybody know what a kiloton is? Or a megaton? I'll clear those up. A kiloton is 1,000 ton. A 1 kiloton bomb would be equal to 1,000 tons of TNT. So a megaton is equal to 1 million tons of TNT. So we're talking an awful lot of explosive stuff here. This article that was written, somebody started doing started questioning, well, okay, so what are we really looking at as far as how much damage do we get into with something? And this particular study was done on a 10 kiloton nuclear device. I just want to read a couple of paragraphs out of here. I don't want to bore you with the whole thing. Infrastructure damage total within a radius of 0.5 to 1 mile. Total destruction. Most buildings within 3,200 feet of the detonation are severely damaged. Injuries and flying debris may occur out to 3.7 miles. The electromagnetic pulse damages many electronic devices out to about 3 miles. A mushroom cloud rises above the city and begins to drift. This scenario postulates a 10 kiloton nuclear detonation in a large metropolitan area. The effects of the damage from the blast, thermal radiation, that's the heat, the prompt radiation, which is the radiological side of it, and the subsequent radioactive fallout have been calculated based on a detonation in Washington, D.C. The calculation is general enough so that most major cities in the United States can be substituted for a relatively straightforward manner. The response timeline begins the instant the detonation occurs. Initially, only survivors in the immediate area will conduct rescue and life-saving activities. Later, minutes to hours, rescue teams will begin to arrive and provide assistance. With the current state of education, training, and equipment, it is likely that many of the responders will subject themselves to very large, perhaps incapacitating or fatal doses of radiation. As various command posts are set up, which will take hours to days, the response will become more coordinated. For a nuclear detonation, the actual occurrence of injuries does not stop when the immediate blast effects have subsided. It is likely that the most effective life-saving activities will be those that address the evacuation or sheltering in place decisions for the potential victims of the immediate fallout path, the effective communication of instructions to the affected population, and the efficient decontamination of the evacuated population. So what I want to talk about a little bit tonight is what do you do if. Our basics, basically, anytime you have any kind of a nuclear detonation, of course, is the first thing you have is the bright flash. It's brighter than the sun. So if you have one of those and it catches your attention, look away very quickly because it can blind you. The blast, of course, will cause a wave. It's a pressure wave, and fire and heat will come with that. According to this article, again, this was a smaller bomb, a 10 kiloton bomb. We're looking at basically about 3.7 miles out as far as that goes. The electromagnetic pulse only went out about 3 to 5 miles. So that's what is going to happen right off the bat. Next slide. The fallout is, of course, what everybody is really worried about. If you're not directly in the area where the bomb occurs, then we get into this fallout situation. The radioactive material itself can't be detected by anything that any of our human senses. You can't taste it, you can't smell it, you can't see it, you can't touch it. But after detonation, you all have a lot of dirt and stuff that goes into the air, and you have about 15 minutes before that starts to fall. Okay, so you've got about 15 minutes before you start getting inundated with the dirt and that radioactive material. The radiation, of course, can cause sickness or death to those that receive large exposures. And what we're going to talk about next is a little bit of how to prevent getting that large exposure. Next slide. You may or may not have warning, about a nuclear detonation that's coming. It can be a terrorist event. It could be something, a bomb coming in from one of the other countries. But you may have a few minutes of warning, but you may not hear it. You may be outside when this thing comes in, and your first notification is that bright flash. Okay, at that point, if you do get a warning, go inside immediately, as close into the nearest building as possible. Wood is not good. Okay, so brick is better and concrete is best. The concrete actually will block some of that radiation from coming in, so you have more concrete, that very dense material between you and the radiation. So that's something that you want to do if you can. But if you have nothing else, wood is better than nothing, okay? Again, you're looking for something to protect the blast heat, pressure wave of the radiation. So this is why you want to try to get inside. Next slide. If you're outside, take cover. Get behind something. And particularly if you're fairly close to this thing and you know that pressure wave is coming at you. There's a lot of heat. A lot of damage is done, of course, by that. Avoid, what you want to do is basically lay down and cover your head. Afterwards, you do not want to try to touch your face or nose or mouth if you can avoid it. The reason for this is that the radioactive fallout, once it starts, you're not going to be able to avoid the gamma radiation. And I'm not going to try to get into the different kinds of types of radiation tonight. But the first thing that happens is, right after the detonation is when you have the really, really high, you have the elevated radiation that's there. Alpha, beta, gamma, the neutrons there right off the bat. But what you want to do is, if you get this stuff on you, you want to avoid trying to get it into your body. So you want to try to avoid breathing it. You don't want to be touching your face and mouth, particularly if you've covered your head and the stuff has started falling. If you're in a vehicle, stop, duck down, wait for the darn thing to come and go, and then move out as quickly as possible. Remember, again, you've got about that 15 minutes. There is a possibility if you're too close, you're going to be affected by the EMP, and you may not be able to do, and then it's a matter of what do you do next. And they don't really give you a whole lot of direction on that, but the idea, again, is to try to get inside a building. Next slide. Again, here's the 15 minutes that you've got. If you've been outside and you've seen the flash and you're fairly far away from it, get inside as quickly as possible, get your animals inside as quickly as possible, and stay in the house, okay? The direction that the wind is blowing is critical when you're involved in one of these things, because the wind is going to take all of that stuff in the downwind direction. Okay, so if you're downwind, you really got to get in and get sheltered very quickly. If you're not, you've got a little bit longer, and you can be pretty much assured that the dose rates from the radiation are going to be a lot less than they would be if you were downwind. Again, fallout is most dangerous in the first few hours after detonation. This stuff dies off very quickly. All this stuff that's thrown out has very short half-life. And again, I'm trying to stay away from getting too far into what radiation does, but take my word for it, it decays very quickly. So that initial 24 to 48 hours is when you're going to have your highest dose rates. Next. Getting inside a building, if you are whether you're upwind or downwind, what you want to try to do is keep the area where you're going to be staying as radiologically free as possible. That means getting out of your clothes when you get to where you're going, okay? Just get out of your clothes, get inside, get a bath as quickly as possible. Wash your hair, wash your skin. Don't do it with hot or very cold water. The hot water opens the pores. Anything that you got on you goes in deeper. The cold water closes up the pores and doesn't let you get rid of it. What you want is tepid water. Tepid water. It's usually in the 80s. I mean, you don't want to be cold, you don't want to be hot. You want to be tepid. Okay, that's a real critical thing. And around here in the wintertime, the cold water is unbelievably cold. So you want to stay away from that. You want to get to the basement or the middle of a building and stay away from outer walls and a roof. And of course, you want to keep your pets inside. Next slide. One more thing about the pets before I move on to that. If your pets have been outside and they come in, you've got to keep them inside. So you've got to deal with that as far as, elimination and that sort of things. If your cats or dogs have been outside, wash them. And I'll tell you right now, if you've never washed a cat, you have a real experience facing you. You cannot, for whatever reason, lower a cat into a tub of water. They will not do it. Get them in the showers. If you've got a long hose on your shower head, then you can use that to wash them. If not, then use a pot to rinse them with it. They will meow a lot through it, but they will put up with it. And of course, then get them as dry as you can. There's some instrumentation out there that most of us have access to. What you will see is, although it's not up here, you'll see alpha, beta, gamma, X-ray type of equipment that you can measure those things with. There's actually a phone app that you can use. It's called Gamma Pix. There are actually several of those now. Gamma Pix has been around for a while, and one that we actually used out at the INL and compared it to the radiation instruments that we had, and it was actually very close. Now, we were looking at very low doses, but again, it gives you an idea as to what you may have, what you may be in, that sort of thing. Again, I'm trying to stay away from getting too far into the different kinds of radiation and the doses that you get from those, but these Gamma Pix will measure gamma, not alpha and beta necessarily. There are instruments out there that can do that. Some of them can get pretty pricey. But take a look on the web if you're interested in doing that, or if you want to know about that, you can get those. They're pretty easy to download, and like I say, they do work pretty well. Next slide. If we have an event, stay inside for at least that first 24 hours. Again, that's when things are the worst. Family members should stay where they are inside. If we are looking at something that could be happening down the road, your children may be at school. They may want to stay there. They may be in an area where they can actually get into a concrete line building. And again, that first 24 hours, let that get past before you try to reunite. It's real important. And of course, you need to prearrange all this with your family ahead of time. Again, if you're within that first 3 to 5 miles and you've had the electromotive pulse, then you may not be able to contact them. And this is another reason for using some of the other equipment that we were talking about earlier as far as radios and that sort of thing. And you may not have access to that, so do pre-plan that sort of thing, okay? Next. Keeping your home as clean as possible is going to help you as far as keep you from being contaminated and actually inhaling or ingesting any of this radiological stuff. It's not pleasant to think about, particularly if it's really cold or really hot. But your AC is something that will pull in air from the outside, and that's not what you want to do, particularly in that first 24 to 48 hours where things are really nasty outside. So you do need to turn that off, and you need to figure out how you're going to stay warm or cold or cool. It may be impossible to do. I mean, it's a question of, are you going to get irradiated or are you going to freeze to death? Take your chances with not freezing, okay? If you're outside after the fallout arrived, before going inside, again, remove any contaminated clothing that you got, go straight to the shower, get yourself cleaned up, avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth so that you don't inhale or get any of the stuff into your lungs or don't wind up ingesting it. As I say up there, go directly to the shower and do not go past go. You need to leave all of your clothing and that sort of stuff outside and not bring it in. Just the shoes, socks, everything. I mean, strip down and go to the shower and get yourself cleaned up. And be aware that the inside of your shower is probably going to have some of this radioactive material in there as well. And if you've got these gamma peaks or you've got some sort of an instrument, you can actually check that. And again, keep washing things down until you can actually get them clean again and not have a trail of this stuff through the house. Again, wash skin and hair. Next slide. We talked about pets. Let's talk about what you should eat and drink. These should be packaged foods that have not been outside. Remember, if it has been outside, it's probably contaminated on the surface. You got to get into it to get in there, so do not, just stay away from that sort of thing. If you do have food or drinks or things like that, and I mean you're literally at a point of where you're either going to get hungry or whatever, you can bring those things in and wash them again, throw them in the shower, rinse them off really well, soap and water, that sort of thing, and again check them to make sure that you can actually use those things. But it's better not to consume the food that's been outside or been outdoors and not covered. Next slide. All right. If you can't wash, you can use wipes. That's one of the things that we've done out at the sites. Is okay, I've got something on my hand. We don't have any water around. Let's use a wipe and clean up. The baby wipes are really good for this. Wet cloths are good if you can't do that. Don't use those disinfectant wipes on your skin. They erode your skin, and that just leaves you open to getting something contaminated and getting into your skin, which, as I said earlier, you don't want to do. Tune into the media if you can to find out officially what's going on. If we haven't attacked the whole United States and it's only one area, then there will be help coming forthwith. They will tell you where it's safe to be. They will tell you directions to go. Again, the battery and hand crank radios will function. Cell phones may or may not. So you're going to have to worry about that and whether or not you can actually, how you're actually going to communicate. Next. If you get sick or you're injured, again, if we've not had an all-out attack on the whole United States, most of the things that you would normally do, you would continue to do, such as if you get sick, listen for instructions on how and where to get medical attention. You can call 911. They are probably not going to be able to come help you, but maybe they can talk you through what you need to know. If you're in a public shelter, but this is particularly true for the 10-mile emergency planning zones that you have around the nuclear power plants, if you're in a shelter, you need to notify the staff and they will get you help. If you're experiencing a medical emergency, again, call 911. If you can't get an answer there, then call the hospitals. The lines are going to be jammed. It's going to be hard to get through, but persevere. Thanks. I say prepare now, and of course this is something we've been talking about all night, is getting prepared for this type of thing. And things that you need to be aware of is like, where can you shelter? Where is a good place to do it between where you work and where you live? If you're at work, is there something that you can do? Is there a shelter that you can get to very quickly, in that 15 minutes if you need it? So take a look around when you're going back and forth to school and work and see where you can find these types of places to actually get to. The outdoor areas, vehicles, mobile homes, they are not adequate. You might as well just stay outside. It might keep you from getting your hair blown, but that's about it. So you really do need to be taking a look at these things, and again, it's a matter of preparation. Next. Emergency supply kits, we've talked about those. Are you going to have one at work for all of this stuff? At this point in time, probably not. As things heat up in the world, or if things heat up in the world, you may certainly consider that. And these are the kinds of things that you need to look at. Again, bottled water, packaged foods, emergency supplies, a radio, a hand crank or battery-powered radio, flashlights, blankets, warm clothes, these sorts of things. Same sort of thing that you would do in any other kind of emergency to have. And again, if there is an indicator that something could be happening, then you might want to bring that into your place of work at that point. If we get attacked by the bomber that we weren't expecting, you're kind of out in the cold on that one. But again, this is something that you get to decide what you want to do about it. Next. Any questions?
100 megaton.
Do what?
100 megaton.
Yes, Rick has said, there is an article about Russia having a 100 megaton bomb right now. That's 100 million tons of TNT. And the article said that they are actually having it underwater. And there's a concern that it could be detonated to cause tsunamis and such against any of the shores of the country. So that's one of the things that's out there. Yes, ma'am, you had a question?
Yeah, I lived in Michigan near a power plant, and they provided some kind of like a tablet for each.
KI, yes.
What's it called?
It's potassium iodide.
Is
Yeah.
that helpful?
Yes, it is. When you detonate a nuclear device or you melt down a nuclear power plant, one of the things that's produced is a lot of radioactive iodine. The radioactive iodine actually goes to your thyroid and causes problems there. The potassium iodide, or KI as it's known, if you take that within hours of exposure, I think it's up to about 3 or 4 hours of exposure, it still works. It will actually saturate your thyroid and actually keep you from absorbing any radioactive iodine. And of course, keeping your thyroid in one piece is good, particularly for children. It's not really that effective once you get older. They don't even recommend it, I think, after about 40 or 45. But certainly babies and young children and young adults, this is something that they use for that, yes.
They provided it to the families, you can go to your pharmacy and get it.
Right.
You can get it anywhere Rusty has it.
Yeah, you can get the KI just about anywhere. Rick just said that Rusty has it. So,
Rusty's over at the preparedness store.
yeah, you take it for about 14 days. And again, it just keeps your thyroid saturated with non-radioactive iodine so that you don't absorb that is radioactive. That's how that works. Yeah, any other questions? It's a good question. A lot of people don't know about that.
Were you going to talk about EMP?
Yes, EMP, the electromotive pulse. There was, and this has been, gosh, around 2000, late 90s, early 2000s, there was a directive for companies to harden the nuclear power plants in particular, and a lot of these other things that were critical infrastructure against the EMP. What happens is you get that nuclear detonation, and basically it gets into the wires, if you can kind of imagine that, and it basically fries everything, so that most of your electronics don't work. Rick talked about Faraday cages. One of the things that you got is a Faraday cage. If you don't know what's coming, throw your cell phones into the microwave and close the door. Don't turn it on. But that is a Faraday cage, okay? So that's one of the things. And of course, anything electronic in the way of, we have all these electronics in our cars these days. A couple of 3 big nuclear devices detonated above the surface of the Earth. I'm thinking was it 2 miles or 10? About 10 miles up. They could basically take out, the whole electronic grid that we have. So that's a really ugly scenario, and one I don't want to get too far into tonight, but you could basically wipe out about 90% of the population in a year doing that. So that's one of those things that's out there. Other questions? I saw another hand. Yes, sir.
I was just going to mention, the potassium iodide. You don't want to do that if you're allergic to iodine.
That's a good point, but let me just say this. What he said was you don't want to take KI if you're allergic to iodine. An indicator of that is, an indicator of that is an allergy to shellfish. However, when we had the nuclear incident in Russia, there were 2 billion people that were given iodine, and they had 2 people that had reactions to it. So it's not as common as they once thought it was. But if you have a reaction to shellfish, then you should probably not take it.
Where did you say you could buy this?
Rusty's has got it.
Preparedness store over by Fred Meyer's. And you can buy it online.
Yeah, you
There's
can
lots
get it
of places
online.
you
It's
can
not
buy
very
it.
expensive.
Just Google it and get
It's good for, do you remember how long it's good for? Is it good for 10 years or 7?
I don't remember.
I think it's good.
Let's get it every 3 to 5 years.
Every 3 to 5, yeah. I think it was actually good for like 7, but at the nuclear power plants, they do replace it a little bit more frequently than that. Yeah. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
A few years ago, I went somewhere where people were displaying their wares, and they were selling like EMT protection things for like your car. Do those work? I don't remember what they were, like a cover or something you could put. And I just wondered how effective it really
Yeah, the question was, does some of this, there's things that are being sold that protect against the EMP, and do they work? In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. It's something you need to be very careful about buying. I mean, check this stuff out on the web before you actually...
A lot of snake oil out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of snake oil out there. Other questions? Yes?
I had heard also about the iodine. Some soldiers have told me to take the liquid stuff, if you have a chance before it hits you, you get it all over your, a little bit all over your, outside your skin. Is that correct?
Actually, you can take the liquid iodine. They actually have had, I guess they still do, for children particularly, rather than trying to poke a pill down their throat, they have the liquid iodine that you can give the children. The idea is to get it, of course, in the commercial nuclear world, we plan, I mean, the iodine has been distributed, and the whole thought is that you can take it before you get exposed. You're actually good for taking the iodine up to about 3 hours after you've been exposed. It's still like 80 or 90% effective. The longer you wait, like you get out about 10 hours, and you might as well not bother. But yeah, and the liquid iodine is available out there. This is not what that comes in the bottle that you rub on, that you put on cuts and stuff. That's not what it is. It's something a little bit different. But the liquid is available, particularly for children. Any other questions? Okay, one more thing about the iodine. It's not going to protect the rest of your body. And again, if you're older, they don't even recommend that you take it. But be aware that it's good for your thyroid. It's good for children and young adults. But again, it's just your thyroid that it's protecting. It's not protecting any of the rest of you. So good thing to take, because there is a lot of iodine that's produced when you have a nuclear detonation. But again, it's not the end-all be-all, and it's not going to protect your whole body. So just be aware of that. All right, any other questions? Yes?
Okay, you said like wait for 24 hours. What happens after that?
I'm sorry?
You said to wait for 24 hours before you like meet up with your family, or it might be separated, kids at school, you at home. What happens after 24 hours? Does it go somewhere?
Well, yeah, they will usually, within 24 hours, you're going to have people getting together well enough to be able to say, okay, we know the wind's coming out of the northeast, it's getting ready to shift to the southwest, which, by the way, happens every day here. You get up in the morning and there's very little wind. Usually around 9 or 10 o'clock. Again, it depends on the day and how warm it is. But the wind will start blowing out of coming out of the southwest. Southwest. All right, at night, again, late in the afternoon, things kind of settle down and it gets calm. And then you'll get this northeastern flow, okay? And that wind does this day after day after day after day, unless you have some sort of a front or something coming in. So that's kind of an indicator too. And particularly in this area, you may be told that we're sitting we're not in this thing happens at night, and the wind's coming out of the north and blowing everything back out toward the desert. Well, come the next morning, it's going to turn around and blow it back the other way. So you may be told at that point to you really need to get yourself evacuated before 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, something like that. Or it could be the other way around as well. So the wind directions and knowing what goes on with the wind around, particularly around here, is pretty good. There was one more question that I wanted to answer that somebody had asked me about what did I think, or where did I think there might be if we were attacked, where would the bombs actually go? My personal opinion is that INL is probably okay. It's a research facility. Okay, there's some incredible stuff that goes on out there, and I think that anybody that wanted to protect all of that, or it would be very advantageous to anyone that was trying to bomb the country and take it over for whatever reason, or however that works, it's somebody's twisted mind. I think that they would leave the INL alone because it is a very important research facility, and there's research reactors out there that you don't have anywhere else in the world. So they're pretty important. The other part of that was where did I think that it would be attacked? I think it would probably be the four corners of our country. Probably Washington, of course, for the government. New York for the financial side of it. Seattle is a big port. There's a huge port down on in the San Diego area, Los Angeles area. I think that Hollywood, that area would be taken out simply as something to depress. It would be a mental thing to depress people for that sort of thing. And then somewhere in the middle, could be Houston for the oil. It could be Chicago, which is a huge distribution center. And I think they take out Florida because nobody wants to deal with it. Yes.
What about Nevada, Area 51?
Say again?
Test site, Area 51.
Nevada.
I have been out there in that neck of the woods. Would they take out Area 51? That's where actually we do most of our testing of the different kinds of planes and crafts, those sorts of crafts that we've been building and playing with these years. Would anybody take that out? I don't know. That again is a site for research. Would they take it out? I can't answer that. I personally wouldn't. There's not enough to recover from that. That's not a big enough area. Yes, sir.
Well, I was just going to say, those research facilities have a lot of value to our adversaries.
Mm-hmm.
They would like to know what we're developing there. So they're not going to want to blow it up. They're going to want to preserve it to gain access to that technology.
Yeah, strangely enough, he's right. There is a tremendous amount of research going on out there. And one of the problems that the INL has is cyber attacks, and they're constantly battling that to try to keep the information that's there secure. There was another question here, yes?
Okay, so after 24 hours, can you stay in the area, or do you got to get out of the city and go the 10 miles out? I mean,
Well, it's going to depend. It depends again on what the wind is doing. And again, this is another reason it's very important to listen and find out what's going on and get some advice as to what to do. The 24 hours is because that is the time of the heaviest fallout, and that's the reason you really want to stay where you are. After 24 hours, if you hadn't heard anything and you know that you're in a downwind area, and maybe you've got this gamma pick, or got something that says, there's a lot of radiation around here, you might want to think about leaving. That's going to be one of the hard things that one of the hard decisions you may have to make. Any other questions? All right, well, I think that's it. We thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. The one thing about it, I've had a little bit of experience with radiation contamination myself, so it's not, and if that were to ever happen, it's not going to go away in a couple of days.
No.
You're looking at years, if not decades, if things like that happen. And so, the hope obviously is that we never get there. And and if it happens, it's going to be a day that none of us want to none of us want to see. Okay, but that being said, a lot of things that were presented today were very, very relevant. Just a preparedness for bad weather. For the power going out, for the things that we face every day. Okay, let's just say that things get really nasty here, and then we stay away from the nuclear end of it. But there's other things that happen to where we still have to rely on ourselves, rely on each other. And that's the key there is how can we take care of ourselves and our immediate families for a few days? And how do I get a hold of my neighbor? How do I get hold of the community? Who in my community can help? all of this. So those are things that we need to understand and be prepared for. And this was a great presentation. I really appreciate it, and I think it's something that we all can take something away with today and actually start preparing. You know, there's an old adage, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago and today. Okay? So yeah, I didn't get that tree planted when I wanted, because it would have been nice and beautiful, but that tree's never going to grow if I don't plant it. And so I would encourage us all, don't go down and swamp Rusty tomorrow, okay?
No.
But go down and start taking, there's a list of things and all of that. Let's just start getting prepared. Okay, it's not going to hurt you. Fact is, you're going to sleep better at night. Your family's going to sleep better at night. You're going to feel better, and and that's what we all need to do. And so with that, unless there's any other questions for me and whatnot, I'll just say thank you everybody for coming, and we'll see you next week. If you want to come to the Liberty Dinner with Raul Labrador, please make sure that we have your name and whatnot. So it's hopefully going to be a good time, a good thing to listen to Raul. He's a very experienced politician. I'll just put that, and so it would be nice to see what he has to say, and from that there. So anyway, thank you everyone. Thank you for coming. Take care. Drive home safe.